Rams have their most exciting coaching staff, I would say, in years through the Rams might have put together their most exciting coaching staff in the Sean McVay era. Also, should the Rams re-sign Tutu Atwell? That's coming up next on Locked On Rams.
You are Locked On Rams, your daily Los Angeles Rams podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Ramley, and welcome to another episode of Locked On Rams, your daily podcast covering your Los Angeles Rams, free and available wherever you hear podcasts. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We're also available over on YouTube, so if you haven't yet, do me a huge favor, join the party, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and if you want to support every single episode, drop a like, drop a comment down below. We're going to start doing our off-season mailbag session. So if you want Travis or myself to answer a question on the show, anything like that, definitely drop a comment down below. We'll for sure get to those. Been seeing some really good ones lately. You guys still going in on the comments. I got one yesterday, Travis, from Steve DeAngelis that says, D-Mac, now I really think an intervention may be required. For the love of all that's holy, let the Week 16 loss go. Okay, like my identity is the Week 16 loss. That's my brand here. Okay, I'm never gonna let it go ever.
Look, you get Week 16, I get Tutu Atwell, and we'll both live happily ever after. We both need things that you have to hold on to even long after they stop being productive.
An early tease by T-Raj, because we might talk some Tutu later when we talk about the Rams free agents they should or should not bring back, so I love it. But, yeah, my name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA. I've covered LA sports for over a decade, 24/7 sports, Bleach Report, SI, Dodgers Nation, LA Sports Report. And as always, I'm joined by the Rams pre-half and post-game show host for the Rams flagship radio station, ESPN 710 LA. He's going to be entering his 12th season covering your Los Angeles Rams, the People's Champ, Mr. Travis Rogers. You can follow him on X at Travis Rogers. And we've got a jam-packed show. The Rams officially announced their coaching staff heading into the 2026 season. We're going to talk about those impending free agents. The Rams have just one on the top 100 free agents list. We'll tell you who that is, and they should bring him back. And also, we love to talk some Sean McVay. We've been a little tough on the Golden Boy for the last couple of weeks, so we're going to bring it back because he landed on a very special tier on the best coaches list since 2000, and we'll get into that a little later. But we're going to start with the coaching staff. Really a lot to get into here, Travis, and you look at just the takeaways, 8 total new hires, 16 returning coaches. So the Rams hired 8 new coaches, and you got defense, special teams, offense, all across the board. The new coaches, you got Kliff, Kingsbury, Brian Allen, Robert Woods, Bobby Trees. Can't wait to see him in like some coaches gear. You know what I mean? Right. Like that's going to look right to me. Robert Wright, Michael Hunter, Brian Johnson, Bubba Ventrone. We talked about him, the Rams' new special teams coordinator, and Kyle Hogue. So the other 16 are returning. We have talked about Nate Schlierhaus. He is going to be the offensive coordinator. Of course, what he actually does as far as Sean McVay's offense, we'll see. But he's been very instrumental in just introducing new passing game concepts. But the guy we'll start with is Kliff Kingsbury. We talked about it before the show. Kliff Kingsbury, he kind of defines the whole falling up situation, the failing upwards, right? I mean, he got fired at Texas Tech. Then he lands an NFL head coach job, gets relieved of his duties as the Washington Commanders offensive coordinator, and then he gets that nice soft landing spot with the Los Angeles Rams as the assistant head coach.
Yeah, it's really interesting with as far as Kliff Kingsbury goes, because I get that he kind of looks the part, and I get that his reputation is pretty good as far as like an offensive mind, but I would like to see a little proof of concept at some point, a little bit of success at one stop or another. That most of this has been, hey, this is a really good coach, but it just didn't work out for reasons X, Y, Z. There's not going to be any reasons X, Y, Z here. You have all the pieces. You can go in and do what you need to do. I also think it's a really good hire. You know, this is not a guy that I would want to be the head coach of my football team, but I think having him on the staff is really valuable. He's been in a lot of places. He can bring a lot of concepts from a lot of other places. He has a backstop in Sean McVay that can take the good and leave the bad. I think that's really important. I think this is one of the things that McVay does so incredibly well is bring in very creative, very smart, very dynamic people and use what needs to be used and leaves the rest aside. And these guys can go, and obviously I know we'll talk about Nate Schillhouse coming up in a little bit, but they're able to take that same idea from Sean McVay and apply it to their stuff and move forward. So I do think having another really smart guy in the room is good. I like it as far as McVay having someone there that can kind of push back on some things. I think that's one of McVay's strengths as well, is that he's willing to listen to things that might be counterintuitive to him and listen to why they might be good or why they're not good and apply the principles either way. So the Kingsbury thing, having him in there without having him really in charge of the team in any meaningful way, I think is a very good hire.
Yeah, I think for me, yeah, like you said, he kind of looks the part, right? I mean, he just kind of does. I mean, I hate how that's a thing, but it is a thing, and he kind of carries himself in that manner. I do think there's a lot of people who think that he's, I mean, I hate to throw out this term, I kind of cringe, overrated, but I will say to that, I mean, he's coached a lot of really good quarterbacks. I mean, he coached Mahomes in college. He coached Kyler Murray, and look at how Kyler Murray has looked since he was gone. Yeah. Yes, he was injured, but still, he played his best football when he was with Kingsbury. And look what he did with Jaden Daniels in his rookie season with the Commanders. So it's not like he doesn't have a track record of success. And the first thing that popped into my mind when I saw this hire was, yes, there's the connections between him and Sean McVay, so it kind of made some sense. But also, it was, hey, maybe the Rams do take a quarterback. I mean, they have been linked to Ty Simpson, and if they do that, maybe that can be his little side project this year. I mean, if they do take a quarterback, Kliff Kingsbury is a guy that has shown the ability to do that at a high level. And I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it definitely would be an added benefit if they do ultimately decide to go that route.
Yeah, look, if they take a quarterback, that's fascinating to me, as long as they take him deeper in the draft and not something near the top, because they have certainly more pressing needs than they do at the quarterback position, at least in the short term. Look, if they can find some sort of Jordan Love, Aaron Rodgers dynamic, I wouldn't hate that, but you'd have to sell that to Matthew Stafford in a meaningful way, knowing that this is for the future and not for the now. And now coming off of an MVP, I don't think he's going to be looking over his shoulder, but that's a whole nother topic for another day. I think you're right. I think that Kingsbury's ability to coach quarterbacks is really interesting. I love your point about Kyler Murray. I don't think you are. I talked to Alex Clancy on Locked On Cardinals a lot about this, that Murray is an incredibly frustrating talent, but the best version of him was with Kliff Kingsbury. Say whatever you want about Murray, and there's been plenty to say, but he was at his most dangerous when Kingsbury had his hands on him. So I'm optimistic that that's going to be a pretty good fit. And again, when it comes to the offensive stuff, all of this runs through Sean McVay. It all goes through him. So he's not going to be, he calls the plays, he draws up the offense, he does all of the things that make us go, hey, that was great, or what the heck is going on. So I think just having Kingsbury in there is another smart guy in the room, as opposed to, hey, he's going to make some terrible decisions and drive this bus off a cliff. That's McVay's job. McVay's the one that's making all the major decisions.
No doubt about it. I mean, McVay could have Andy Reid as his offensive assistant. He could have anyone on. I mean, he could have the best coaches in the NFL, and he would still be his offense. There's no doubt about that. But I think that the difference between McVay is if he just has someone he respects, that I think we won't see. Here's the thing, Travis. We won't see what Kliff Kingsbury does for Sean McVay. We won't know what it is, right? But it will be something. And if it's not, then it wasn't the right move to bring him in. So a lot of this is predicate on Sean McVay's openness and willingness to just kind of like keep his ears open. And that's why I think he's a sustainable head coach. I mean, it's not even, I think he is. I mean, we're like 9 years in and he's already had such a fantastic career. And a lot of that has to do with evolution. By the way, I like the Alex Clancy reference. I mean, I like dudes who talk trash, and he's a good trash talker. It makes sense because he covers the Cardinals, so he's around trash a lot. So, but big shout out to our boy Alex Clancy, who's the host of Locked On Cardinals. But you mentioned it before the show. Really, the takeaway with Kingsbury is Aubrey Pleasant not being back. And this to me came as I almost want to say a shocker, just because he's a guy that he's coached games, right? In the preseason. He has been with the Rams for quite some time. And the last time I checked, he hasn't been hired anywhere. So he's just gone. The Rams just went in another direction. He's coached preseason games the last 2 years. Jimmy Lake now takes over as the pass game coordinator, defensive backs coach, and then Michael Hunter is going to be assisting with the defensive backs. But what say you on Aubrey Pleasant not being back with the Rams, Travis?
Yeah, we were talking about this on my radio show yesterday, and DeMarco said something I thought that was really interesting. He says a lot of times you can tell more about what is going on with the team with who doesn't come back as opposed to who gets hired. That the guys that were there that are no longer there can be pretty telling as well. So Pleasant obviously was a name that when the Rams dropped their coaching list yesterday, when you didn't see it, it's like, whoa, because like everything you just said, it felt like not only was he teed up to be here for a long time, but he was teed up to maybe get a head coaching job somewhere else. You mentioned the preseason where he had his hands all over it, but then you kind of really stop and think about what it is that the Rams struggled with last year, in particular in the secondary. That was Aubrey Pleasant's area of concern, and it not only didn't get better, it actually got a little bit worse the deeper we got into the season. And they moved on. I know that there was, he interviewed in some other places, did not get it. So that I think is interesting in and of itself. But this was a guy that felt like was going to be here for a long time before he left to go take a head coaching job. And now that he's just not here at all, not because he got hired away by somebody else, but rather they just decided to go in a different direction, I think is both really interesting and I think telling, because the Rams do the hard thing. Here it comes, 11 minutes into the podcast. It's a little Dodger-like in the sense that, hey, when there's a hard decision that needs to be made, even if it's something that the player or the coach or whatever might be popular, they're going to do it anyway, that this needs to be done. Unfortunately, it's going to like the guy, Chase Blackburn, was one of Sean McVay's buddies. They had to sack him. Now, they'll make the hard decision when they have to make a hard decision. I think that's where Aubrey Pleasant ultimately landed, where I'm sure they like him and think very highly of him, but they had to try something different. That wasn't getting better, and they needed to find somebody who could make it better.
Yeah, clearly they had a very defined reason. I mean, not saying anything bad happened. It just, they felt like, hey, we need to re-energize something, go in a different direction. They felt like they could just upgrade on the margins or something like that. But it's kind of one of those things, Travis, where if you're a reporter for this team and you're looking at the next Sean McVay press conference, that's one you're itching to ask. Like, hey, let me get the Zoom button. Let me be the first to ask Sean McVay that, because you know that he's going to say a lot of the right things, but hopefully in there, we're going to find out exactly why they decide to go that direction. But coming up next, some more on the coaching staff for 2026. We're going to get into those free agents, who will be gone, who will be back, and Bobby Trees, Robert Woods, Sarah High School, Gardena, USC, stand home, fight on. He is going to be on the Rams coaching staff. I'm going to tell you what capacity. That's coming up next on Locked On Rams.
As the new year gets going, a lot of people are trying to simplify their routines, and dinner's a big one, because between busy work days, cold nights, not so much around here in California, but packed schedules, of course, everywhere, and having an easy, reliable dinner plan, that can make a huge difference. That's where Home Chef comes in. Home Chef takes the stress out of cooking by delivering fresh, pre-portioned ingredients right to your door with easy-to-follow recipes that actually taste great. They're rated #1 by users of other meal kits for quality, convenience, value, taste, and recipe ease, and it's easy to see why. Meals come ready to fit your schedule, 30-minute recipes, oven-ready trays, or those quick lunches as well. Everything always arrives pre-portioned, so there's less prep, less mess, and no wasted food. Saves time and money, right, with Home Chef, because Home Chef customers save an average of $86 per month on groceries. And for a limited time, Home Chef is offering our listeners, Locked On Rams listeners, 50% off your first box, free shipping, and free dessert for life. Just go to homechef.com/lockedon. That's homechef.com/lockedon for 50% off your first box, free shipping, and free dessert for life. You must be an active subscriber to receive free dessert.
And we are off and running here on Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday. Free and available wherever you get your podcast. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Also, a big shout out to those everyday listeners out there watching and listening to every single episode of Locked On Rams. Cannot thank you enough. And now is the time to take your Rams fandom to the next level and join the Everydayers Club. Go to lockedonrams.supercast.com today to join. You get ad-free audio wherever you get your podcasts. You get access to a members-only Discord where you'll find myself and eventually Travis at some point. He's going to be in the mix. I honestly haven't commented yet, but I'm working my way towards it. I think today might be the day. So find me in the Discord today. Like I said, username Sweet T Raj, the People's Champ 57. So yeah, definitely look for me in the comments, or my alternate, the Tutu Atwell or Tutu Atwell. Yeah, we'll have to think of some names there. But honestly, it's a lot of fun. You get premium content and it supports the show, and would really appreciate it. So do us a huge favor. Go to lockedonrams.supercast.com to be an everydayer today. All right, Travis. For some reason, I mean, there's just I don't know, man. I love like the new coaching talk, like for teams, like you talk about baseball and stuff. Like, I mean, if they get a new hitting coach, I'm like, cool. Will they hit or not? You know what I mean? But it's like there's just something about like NFL, like passing, like because they really hold the keys to this league with different concepts and who's evolving. And I'm really excited about Nate Scheelhaase as the offensive coordinator. I think it was a tremendous move. I was on that Pittsburgh radio station. And I forgot the guy's name at this point, but he's the guy that was talking about Chris Shula. And I wish he had told me before he had me on to basically make the case for Chris Shula as the coach, because I would have done that. But every time he would ask about Chris Shula, I'd be like, no, dude, Nate Scheelhaase is the guy. Like I was pushing for him. I sound like I was his agent just because I just kind of can sense this is an offensive league. You can find defensive coordinators somewhere else. You can find guys that can develop. It's tougher to find that offensive like super mastermind. I think that Scheelhaase has that. I'm never going to say Sean McVay potential because I think he's kind of almost a one-of-one unicorn type of head coach. But as far as just the vibe goes, I think that Scheelhaase has that special sauce.
Well, it's funny you say that because what I've heard is that there is a lot of what Sean McVay had going on 10 years ago going on with Nate Scheelhaase. It's just that there is a lot of, hey, he might be young. He might not be somebody that's, been a coordinator for 10 years waiting for his turn. But by the time you want to hire him, it might be too late to hire him. That was the buzz on Sean McVay when they pulled the trigger on him. This will be his 10th season coming up this year. And I think that's really interesting because I remember when McVay got hired, I started calling around and the commentary was exactly the same. Nobody knows if it's going to work, but it's going to work eventually. That this is one of these guys that if you wait till he's ready, you might not have a chance to go get him. So the Rams went maybe a little early. Turns out not early at all. He was ready to go. But I think Scheelhaase kind of falls into that same category, at least potentially. Now, I don't know if we're ever going to see his fingerprints on any of this stuff here in LA, because you look at the offensive coordinators that have come through LA, they're all head coaches somewhere else. You go to Kevin O'Connell, Mike LaFleur, Matt LaFleur, like just right on down the list. Anybody that has had that, Liam Cohen, like these guys that have been offensive coordinators for the Rams, they are head coaches, and they're head coaches like that, right? It happens really quickly. So Scheelhaase was in the mix this cycle. So I think it's very likely that if the Rams offense continues to look good, and it will, just because Sean McVay is involved in it and the offense always looks pretty good, that he's going to be down the road. So I'm excited to see it. I'm excited to see what it looks like, but I don't think we're going to get to know him all that well, Doug, because I don't think he's going to be here very long. I think he's going to be the next guy that's hired. And again, to kind of bring it all the way back around again, Sean McVay is a great coach for a number of different reasons, but right near the top of the list is his ability to identify other really good coaches, put them in a position to learn and thrive and go and take over their own programs. But, I just think he's the next in the cycle. I was not surprised at all that he got the OC job.
Exactly, Travis. And here's the thing, too. With Scheelhaase, this is another example of the Rams playing the margins, right? I mean, Kliff Kingsbury wants to join, right? And most cases, he's your offensive coordinator. But instead, they give him the assistant head coaching job, which is like Dwight Schrute's assistant to the regional manager at Dunder Mifflin to Michael Scott job, right? And then for Scheelhaase, you give him the offensive coordinator job because the only upgrade, the only elevation is going to be a head coach. And when that happens, you're going to get some draft picks, right? So you mentioned that team in LA that starts with a D that wears blue, the Dodgers. But what do? They manage the 26th spot on the roster. They play the DFA game. They do all these little tiny things we get some international bonus pool money from Anthony Bonda. Like there's these like little tiny things they do, these micro things that help improve their roster. And this is another little chess move by the Rams, knowing that Shieldhaus is going to get a head coaching job that's going to lead to a draft pick one day.
And they got everything teed up. Like you said at the beginning of this segment, there is no sport that we all follow where the coaching matters more than it does in professional football. We've talked about it so often, and I think like if you were ranking the most important jobs in a football organization, I don't know which one goes first. It's quarterback or head coach, and they're probably exactly equal because you're not going to have success without either one. But I think that the head coach can have more success across the board because he can hire his assistants. He can make sure that if he does have the Midas touch, the way that McVay does, that you always have the next guy in the building so you can just slide him over a chair. That's, we've seen it happen so many times other places where you do get a hot commodity, you do get an assistant coach or whatever it is, and all of a sudden that guy goes. Look at the Philadelphia Eagles, right? Nick Sirianni, who I think probably takes a little more heat than he deserves, but how many different coordinators has he had to cycle through? Some because they turn out to be pretty good, but the next guy he puts in the chair, they have to end up sacking him because he's not any good. McVay always has his next guy teed up. That's a skill just like anything else. So, the Rams just could not have aced it anymore when it came to hiring their coach. And, this stuff, usually the bloom comes off the rose pretty quick. Like, okay, great coach, goes to the playoff. We really like him. Not a good season, not 2 bad seasons in a row. And then you got to go. We're going in 10 years and you can't see the end of the road here. And, even if he had a horrible season, I don't think anybody's looking like, hey, we got to make a move here. And not only is he lined up, but his assistants are lined up. The organization is lined up behind him. It really is an incredible gift to not have to worry about this kind of stuff where at least half the league, it seems, is constantly changing a head coach or a coordinator every single season.
No doubt about it. Yeah, I mean, like working with Sean, it's like interning at NASA or Google or something. It's like you got that, you're gonna get paid. You need a job, like no matter what. And like that's something that I think that it's like almost like a side quest that he doesn't really get enough credit for, but it's definitely ultimately helped his success. And I kind of like what they're doing now because now we're seeing Sean McVay kind of take some of his initial dudes, right? And then he's going to kind of be like, oh, like, is there potential there? He's going to get the first pick and adding them to his staff. And we've got a recent example now with Robert Woods, who signed a 1-day contract to retire with the Rams. And then now he's going to be helping out with the wide receivers. And I just love the idea of like when you get a combination of like the older dudes that are just like been around the game forever, that are like, I don't know, they don't even look like football players, but then you combine them with like the fresh, like Reese out of the NFL type of guys that can talk to players that like players are going to respect no matter what because they just recently played. I think having a good combination of all this stuff brings some good synergy.
Yeah, Woods, I loved the hire because he was kind of the prototype of the wide receivers that the Rams have really sought and developed since Sean McVay got here. Like Woods was the first guy that did what Cooper Kupp did, that does what Puka Nacua did, that yes, he can make some spectacular plays, but he'll also do all the little stuff. He runs every route. You can line him up outside. You can line him up in the slot. He can clear a linebacker out. He can run an end around. Like there wasn't a play in the playbook for Robert Woods that you wouldn't run because he just, and I'm not even saying anything bad about Davante Adams, but you can't do everything with Davante Adams. What he does at incredibly high level, but you're not running Davante Adams through the offensive line trying to clear a hole for someone else. You will do it with Kupp. You will do it with Puka, but Robert Woods was kind of the first guy to do it. And to your point, Doug, because he's a younger guy, because he was just in the league, I think he's going to have the attention of everybody there. He knows the offense intimately. He knows the Rams culture intimately. So I think he's just going to slide right in. I think he's going to be absolutely fantastic.
I do too. And he's going to be the assistant wide receivers coach officially. You got Eric Yarber, Rob Calabrese, and you got Allen, who was the consultant with the team last year. He's going to be on the staff. So you got Zach Cromer, you got offensive line coach Ryan Wendell kind of filling out the offensive side. But yeah, I mean, look, I think some of these former players, it's going to be like, hey, so you're going to start a podcast, you're going to get an assistant coaching job somewhere, right? And he has gone the assistant coaching job path. But coming up next, we are going to start to talk some free agency. We're going to kind of roll this segment for the next couple of days. Might talk some Tutu, might talk some Cam Curl. That's coming up next on Locked On Rams.
Have you ever wanted to experience the NBA Finals live and in person? Who hasn't, right? FanDuel is giving you the chance to turn that dream into reality with their NBA sweepstakes. Here's how it works. You use a profit boost on any NBA future, and you're going to automatically be entered for a shot to win an NBA Finals trip for two. That's right. We're talking flights, tickets, the entire experience. So if you're already looking at the board and you're thinking about which team can make a deep run, this is the perfect time to lock that in, because futures this time of year are amazing. Whether it's picking a team to win the championship, maybe grab a conference title, it adds that extra layer of excitement to every game down the stretch. And we are down the stretch. I think the Lakers have something like 26 games left. And right now, not only can you pick up your cash, but it could also send you to the NBA Finals. So visit FanDuel.com to get started. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
And welcome back to Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday, free and available wherever your podcast. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Okay, Travis, so free agents, really Cam Curl, the only real top-ish free agent, if you want to call him that, on the top 100 list. We're actually going to save him for tomorrow because that, I think, is going to require a little bit of a deeper dive, a longer segment. I think this one will require a shorter segment, and that is because we're going to start with, should the Rams re-sign Tutu Atwell? Before we get your thoughts, just the predictors, the projections for him, according to Spotrac, they have him at 1 year, $2.6 million, which compared to the $10 million they gave him last year, it would definitely be significantly less. We'll start there.
It's like we talked about the Dodgers. One of the things that I think the Rams are so darn good at is realizing when they've made a mistake or realizing when something is over and it's time to move on to the next thing. Think Jared Goff. Even after they gave him a $100 million contract, they still say, hey, we can get better. Let's make a trade for Matthew Stafford. Think about what they did with Todd Gurley, who they gave a huge contract to, and then Todd Gurley aged really quickly. And they got out of the Todd Gurley business as quickly as they could. Like they're willing to say, hey, we got to move on. For whatever reason, they never did that with Tutu. They gave him $10 million a year ago. They never played him. Like it was, I'm not even saying that all of this is Tutu's fault. I just think it was just a bad fit. It was a bad decision to give him the money. It was a bad decision to bring him back. It was a bad decision to have a roster spot and that money soaked into a guy that you never had a real plan for. So I think finally somebody's going to decide this is the ride is over. I wish Tutu good luck and wherever it comes next, but this should have never lasted as long as it did. It never really happened. It was a missed pick. It happens all the time in the league, but that they kept trying to force it to happen never really added up for me.
Absolutely. And the funny thing about it is, or just the sad thing actually about it, is the fact that the year they gave him the most money and kind of shocked the Rams and NFL world, really, with that $10 million deal, was his least productive season. I mean, it's not like even like had an improvement. End up with 6 catches for 192 yards, played in just 10 games. I mean, he did have the 88-yard touchdown that helped win the game against the Colts, but not a lot to talk about. I think, too, you just look at the replacements, right? I mean, Jordan Whittington, Kanata Mumfield, is he a true number 3? I have my doubts. Xavier Smith, is he going to be someone that you put in that role? I have my doubts about all 3 of those guys. I actually would look elsewhere from Jordan Whittington, Kanata Mumfield, and Xavier Smith. And you look at some of the free agents on the market. We've already talked about some of them early on this offseason, and there's never going to be the perfect fit there because you're not talking about big-time expensive players. They all have flaws to a degree. But, yeah. I mean, just look at some of the free agents out there. I mean, Alec Pierce, Romeo Doubs, you got Rashid Shaheed, Juwan Jennings, Wan'Dale Robinson, Deebo Samuel, George Pickens. There are some better names out there, but I'll use the opportunity to I got another way to strengthen my case for my favorite USC Trojan fight on, and that's Mekhi Lemon. I'm on this early off-season greatest show on turf kick, right? I mean, the YouTube algorithm has got me like absolutely like all their recs are like games from that era. So I'm like totally like locked in on that. And I was just looking at some plays that Torrey Holt made, and look at when they drafted Torrey Holt. They drafted Torrey Holt number 6 when they already had Isaac Bruce, right? You already had a lot of dudes on that team. So I mean, obviously that's a whole different era, but there's plenty of examples of, hey, we're taking the best player to just make this offense as explosive as possible. And some of these guys, I'm just like, I mean, do I want Deebo Samuel on my team? Like, you know, like I mean, we talked about like I kind of want someone fresh in something for the future.
Yeah, I look, there are two schools of thought here. The one school of thought, and I fall into this one, is you got problems in your secondary. You need to address your secondary. You need to get your offense is fine. You need to get a little bit better back there. The other school of thought is, and I think that the Rams may fall into this one, is double down on what you're great at. Go get more offense. That, you know, we have the best offense in football. Get ready. I forget the guy that put the YouTube comment on. Get ready to talk about the Seahawks loss again. Here it comes. They were the only team in the league, the Rams were, that were able to move the ball and score against Seattle. Like we were talking about it on my radio show yesterday about how, you know, Seattle's got that defense that's going to be there for a while. That's going to be tough to go. The Rams scored points against Seattle. The problem wasn't that they couldn't score. The problem was they couldn't stop anybody from scoring. So put that aside for a second. I just think that the idea of doubling down on offense is interesting. I would go the other way, but getting a wide receiver 3, whether that's through free agency, whether that's through the draft, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, we've seen Sean McVay when it comes to the draft, offense. You know, they will go offense when they think that that's the way to go. So we'll see. That list of free agents that you mentioned, none of those really ring my bell in a meaningful way. So if you want to do it through the draft, it better work, because the last thing you need is another wide receiver who's standing on the sidelines, who can't get into the game, who doesn't fit in, and you already got 2 guys who are really good at it, and then at the same time your secondary is still, you know, the weak link in the chain.
Oh, for sure. I mean, that exactly. I could not agree more. But hey, when Mekhi Lemon catches the game-winning touchdown in the Super Bowl, you guys are going to thank me. That's all I'm going to say. All right, real quick before we get out of here, since we already promised him the Sean McVay stat. Basically, The Athletic did this really cool, like, comprehensive look at head coaching hires since the start of the 2000 season, and there were a lot of like benchmarks and criteria to get into this top tier, elite tier. You 5 seasons as a head coach, a 35 regular season win plus 500 win rate, 2 playoff appearances, 2 playoff wins, 1 Super Bowl win, 1 Super Bowl appearance. And McVay made the top 13. And the other coaches, and the question for you is, I mean, out of these guys, who would you want over Sean McVay, right? Of course, Bill Belichick. I mean, that's the big debate, like him without Brady, right? Indianapolis Colts, Tony Dungy, John Gruden, Tom Coughlin, Mike McCarthy, Sean Payton, Mike Tomlin, John Harbaugh, Pete Carroll, Andy Reid, Doug Peterson, Nick Sirianni. McVay is top 2, not 2, in my opinion, when you compare to those other guys, especially when you factor in LA, especially when you factor in where the Rams were as a franchise, as far as just starting anew in a new city. I would not take any of these guys, even Bill Belichick, unless it's Bill Belichick - Tom Brady for the Rams.
Yeah, I think there's 3 names that kind of jump off that list. You mentioned 2 of them. The other one that I would throw in there, because he's done it in a second place, maybe not gone to the Super Bowl, but it feels like there was just bad luck that they didn't go to the Super Bowl last year, is Sean Payton. I think they would, because you talk about changing culture. The Saints culture was terrible. Peyton comes in, takes him to a Super Bowl. They're a really good team with Sean Payton. Goes to Denver. They're a really good team with Sean Payton. The Belichick-Brady thing, I think, is a great point. Is Bill Belichick a great coach? Clearly he is. But the Brady question is a real one. It's a fair one. Did he have success without Tom Brady like that? No, not really. Did Brady have success without him? Yeah, he went and won another Super Bowl. McVay has won or been to a Super Bowl, won a Super Bowl with basically 2 different teams. Same organization, but there was the Gurley Goff team, and then there was the Stafford Cup team. They're 2 totally different eras, totally different things, and he's won both ways. So I think those 3 guys are in a group of their own, and I like how you said it. He's top 3, and he's probably not 2 or 3.
Yeah, the only guy. So Sean Payton is a really good one. I think from a likability standpoint, he can get kind of rough sometimes. I mean, and then there's kind of the history with the Saints. He kind of fell on the sword for that. But there's 2 guys on this list that could pull the the line, hey, just Google, I win, Google me, right? I think if there's the guys on this list that can do that, it's Andy Reid and Sean Payton. They can do the Kurt Signetti, I win, Google me. And I think Andy Reid would be my guy. John Marshall, high school from Los Angeles, Dodgers fan, Tommy's Burgers fan. I think Andy Reid would be like the one guy where, like, if Sean McVay didn't exist, he'd be the one guy if I could handpick, like, if give me like his prime, I'd take that prime.
I got nothing to add to that. You're 100% right. Yeah, yes, Andy Reid should be on that list too.
Love me some Andy Reid. But that's going to do it for this episode of Locked On Rams. My name is Doug McKay. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA. And you follow the People's Champ, Mr. Travis Rogers, at Travis Rogers. And then catch him on his radio show, DeMarco and Travis, 3 to 6, ESPN LA. And until next time, whose house? It's Locked On Rams house.